Hey, and welcome to Pattern Niche on YouTube. This is a community-driven sewing channel where we share tips, tutorials, advice, all kinds of things to help you on your crafting journey. I'm Kate, and today I am walking you through how to make the new Tenacity pattern. This is a t-shirt and a tank top, kind of loose fitting, but it has this really cool side color blocked options. And something we don't really see a lot of is overlapped raw edge seaming, and this pattern has that, so let's check it out. So the Tenacity can be made either as a short sleeve or long sleeve t-shirt or as a sleeveless top, which is the option I am choosing. I chose to do bands on the arms, so armbands or sleeveless armbands, and then for the neckline I chose to do the raw edge neck band. You could choose that or the regular neckband or a neck binding. And for the arm seam, you can do either neck binding or a neck band. And then, of course, for the short sleeve, you can do a hem or a cuff on the long sleeve. Other options include a button placket. This would be a super cute Henley, but this time I just chose to keep it simple and not do that. And then there's also the color blocking option, so either you can overlap and top stitch down and have that raw edge showing on your color blocking, or you can sew it normally right sides together, flip it out, and have some added interest to the front of your shirt. There's also a curved hem option and a side slit vent type option on the bottom edge of the shirt. So if that all sounds interesting to you, make sure you subscribe to this channel so you don't miss out on future content, because we put out loads of stuff just like this. So the pieces you need to make the Tenacity are the front and back bodice pieces, the two color blocking pieces, the neckband, and then the two arm bands. If you are making sleeves, obviously you need those as well, and the cuff potentially. You will also need the button placket pieces and interfacing if you are choosing to do that. I didn't do that in this tutorial, but there is a video that I made on the Pattern Niche channel for the Niagara top and dress, and it goes through how to make a button placket there. It does not show how to do the raw edge button placket, but I think the instructions are done so well in the pattern that you shouldn't have any troubles. But if you are looking for a little bit of extra guidance, you can check out our Facebook group. So when you're cutting out your pattern pieces, I did want to make note of the vent option. So if you are doing the vent, you want to make sure that you're allowing that notch there for when it comes time to do that. So on the back piece, you're going to cut that out, and the front, you can also cut it out, or you can just mark it on there. Other than that, things are pretty straightforward. The one really important thing though is the color blocking pieces need to be mirrored pairs. So make sure you're not cutting out one piece and then the same piece. So this is especially important with a projector. If you are not cutting two layers of fabric, you want to make sure that you cut your fabric piece and then flip your fabric over to cut the second piece. You can also just take the first piece that you cut, flip it over, and then cut it out on the fabric. I sometimes do that as well. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is attach those color block pieces. Line them up nicely on your front bodice piece, and then you're going to sew them right sides together. Or if you're doing the overlap like I am, what you need to do is overlap 3/4 of an inch. So I am taking my seam gauge, making marks all the way along at 3/4 of an inch to keep these in place and not move around on you when you're trying to top stitch. You can use either pins, a glue stick, or some Wonder Tape or wash away seam tape, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to use the seam tape in this particular example, but any of these options work really great. And if you don't already have craft glue in your sewing room, make sure you get some, because it is so handy once you start using it. Once you have those two side pieces color blocked and added on, now you have a whole front bodice. So you take the back bodice, put it right sides together with the front bodice, and stitch down those shoulder seams. I am also going to do the side seams at the same time. So I'm going to start at the underarm and stitch down to where that notch is. Make sure you do not go past here. The instructions do encourage you to use a sewing machine for this. I wanted to experiment with a serger, since I know some people actually don't own sewing machines, they only have a serger. So I did a little bit of trial and error here to figure out how that would work, and let's see how that turned out. Okay, so the instructions show for the side seams to be sewing with a sewing machine, so you can stop to do the side bend. I wanted to try and use my serger. So what I did is I serged all the way down the side seam, stopping at that notch. And at that notch, I just serged right off the edge. So I still have my tail here, I haven't tied it or anything like that. Now, what I did is I pressed these seam allowances in, just like the instructions say, and I'm gonna put a bar tack across here. Now I realize not everybody has bar tack stitch, so you can just use a, actually really any stitch. You could do a zigzag or a straight stitch. It's going to get sewn over again anyway. And once we do that bar tack, then we can go back and top stitch these seam allowances down. So the bar tack is going to keep that from coming undone. I did mine a little bit past my serged line actually, just to make sure it's not showing. And then I went ahead and top stitched on my cover stitch machine here, just like that. So you can see when it lines up that it's as if this was a seam and then now it's just open, so it should line up nicely. This one maybe could use a little bit of work, but as long as you're getting that seam folded under, seam allowance folded under, then you shouldn't have any problems. So again, I'm just going to do a bar tack across here, and then I'm going to top stitch this down, and then I'm actually going to do the hem while I'm at it because I like to get those out of the way. The next step will be to fold this under 3/4 of an inch, press it, and then hem it. It's just the 2 straight hems here. Before we move on to the next step, I just wanted to say if you are enjoying this content and you like tutorials and you like sew-alongs, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up. It really helps us to grow and evolve and know what you're looking for so we can make more stuff just like that. So once you're done with the vent and the side seams, then you can go ahead and hem. I like to do it in the middle of the process instead of at the end, because by the time I get to the end, I just don't want to do the hem. That's my least favorite part. So a little hack or tip for you is to do it ahead of time, and then it's already done, so that by the end, you don't have to do the hem. Next, I'm going to add on the armbands. So this is just like a typical band. You're going to sew the 2 short sides together. The sleeveless armband option has this V, which might be a little bit confusing to you because we don't see this in a lot of patterns, but it just is going to allow it to sit a little nicer on that sleeveless cut. So you can do that on your sewing machine. I actually cheated and did it on my serger, and it turned out just fine. For the neckband, again, I chose to do the raw edge neckband. So what you're going to do is take your long neckband piece and cut it down the center the long way so that you have 2 identical long strips of fabric. Now what you're going to do is stitch the 2 short ends together of each piece. So you're going to make 2 loops like a regular neckband. I think I misread the instructions. I'm not really sure what happened here, but I used my serger, and I think the pattern recommends using the sewing machine. I do recommend using your sewing machine if you are doing this raw edge, because you can see the serged edge when it's opened up, and it's not super noticeable, it's not a super big deal, but I think the sewing machine on a zigzag stitch or even a straight stitch would look a lot better than a serged edge. So once you have that, you're going to now quarter everything and then match everything up. So the first neckband piece, you want to take the right side of it to the inside wrong side of the shirt, pin it along the edge of the neckline, just like you would a normal neckband, except we're putting it on the inside. The second neckband piece, we are going to now put that on the outside, right sides together, creating a type of sandwich. So the shirt bodice neckline should be in the center of the sandwich, and then the 2 neckline pieces should be right sides facing each other in there. You're going to stitch around this, and this is where I used my sewing machine instead of the serger. I think you could get away with using a serger here. It would be faster, more durable, all of those things. There shouldn't be any concerns with using that on this step instead of the sewing machine. So go ahead and serge or stitch all the way around there, and then you're going to flip those two neckband pieces up and away from the bodice and press them, give them a good old press, and then just top stitch them. So I used my cover stitch machine here. You can absolutely use a regular sewing machine. If you did serge this, make sure you're hiding that. And that's the end of this tutorial. The last thing to do is put it on and strut your stuff. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful for you. I hope you have picked up your copy of the Tenacity because it really is a versatile pattern. And I can't wait to see your version over on Instagram. Make sure you tag us so we don't miss it. Thanks again, and I hope you have a great day. Happy making! Bye!